Hi you guys, and welcome to my channel. My name is Patience. To my existing subscribers, welcome back. If this is your first time here, be sure to click that subscribe button and that notification bell so you can continue to indulge in the Haute Bella experience. In today's video, I am going to be creating this gorgeous eye look using the Pat McGrath Labs Mothership Sublime Golden Opulence palette. So you guys remember this palette, it came out a while ago, but I waited and I was able to catch this on sale on the Pat McGrath website. So I was able to pick it up for almost at a 50% discount. And boy, am I glad that I was able to get the savings on this palette because this palette is absolutely gorgeous. This is a 6-pan palette from Pat McGrath Labs, but the color story in the 6-pan palette will definitely give you enough variation to create many gorgeous eye looks. I'm also using some of the other Pat McGrath products in this look today. I am using the Pat McGrath concealer, I'm using the Pat McGrath setting powder, I'm also using the Pat McGrath under eye powder. You guys have heard me talk about that under eye powder before. I love the Pat McGrath Labs under eye powder. I'm also using the Pat McGrath Skin Fetish highlighter and Balm Duo. You guys have heard me talk about this product before and probably have seen me use it in a video before. I'm determined that I am going to perfect using this product. I'm really liking how the highlighters and contours are looking when I apply my foundation on top of them. Normally when we are applying concealers, highlighters, products such as that, we're putting it on top of our foundation, and anytime that I airbrush my foundation, you guys know that I do it in reverse. I use my concealer, bronzers, highlighters, and everything underneath. So I did that same technique today using a traditional foundation, and I think it turned out absolutely beautifully. When we get to the demo portion of the video, you guys will see that it required less foundation than it normally would if I were to do it the traditional way. The traditional way meaning applying my foundation first and then putting my concealer, bronzers, contours, highlighters, and all that on top of it. Yeah, so I think that this look turned out absolutely gorgeous. Very soft complexion look, doesn't look heavy, love it. I'm also using one of the Pat McGrath lipsticks in this video as well. I'm trying out one of my Guerlain bronzers. So yeah, we got a lot going on in this video, but as you can see, based upon this look, it all was so worth it. This is a gorgeous look. I love the eyes, I love the complexion, I love it all. So if you guys would like to see how I created this look, then keep watching. My face has been cleansed. I used my Mario Badescu Aloe, Herb, and Rose facial spray to tone my face. And then I followed up by using my Fresh Black Tea Kombucha Facial Essence. I then moisturized my face with my Tatcha Water Cream. And I used my Tatcha Silk Canvas Primer to prime my face. I used my Cover FX Power Play Concealer to prep my eyes for this look. I'm going to go into the Golden Opulence palette from Pat McGrath Labs. I'm going to use this shade right here. This shade is called Eternal Opulence, and I'm going to use this as my brow bone highlight. I'm now going to use this shade right here. This shade is called Tranquility, and I'm going to use this as my transition shade. I'm now going to use this shade right here. This shade is called Prosperity, and I'm going to place this on my outer V and sweep it into the crease. This is a gorgeous deep maroon type of color. This is a gorgeous shade. I'm going to go back into this shade right here. This shade is Tranquility. This is the shade that I used as my transition shade. And I'm going to dip back into this shade to make certain that I don't have too harsh of a line where these two shades are coming together. So the Tranquility, I don't want to lose that shade, but I'm also going to use it to soften up the areas just on top here where I have applied the Prosperity, which is the darker shade I have on the lid. So just add a little bit more of this back in. very lightly, just tickling the lid. So I've already did my half cut crease type of situation, and I'm going to go back into this shade right here. This shade is Prosperity, and you guys know what I'm going to do with this. I am going to soften up the edges of where I have carved out these lids. I like to do this because I like a little bit softer blend. I like for that to be a really gradient type of look on my mature eyes. So we're going to have to soften it up just a little bit. Again, I want to mention that I am still using my cut crease canvas base from Makeup Revolution, and I use that to carve out these lids. I'm now going to use this shade right here. This shade is called Moon Phase, and I'm going to use this in the areas that are still open here where I have carved out my lid. This is a beautiful shimmer shade. I am going to use this shade dry. I'm going back to Prosperity once again, and I'm going to do a little bit more blending here. I don't want to add another shade. I think I'm going to try to keep this pretty simple. In most cases, I'm using 3 or more shades on this mobile lid, but I think today I'm just going to keep it simple. Or I say I'm going to keep it simple, but this gold in this palette, I want to use that. So I'll have to figure out something to do with that gold, and I think I may have something in mind. I'm going to use my Morphe 705 brush. You guys have seen me use this brush in many videos. I love this brush because it has a pointed tip. So it really helps me to get into that detail that I'd like to bring into an eye look. So I'm going to use this brush, and I'm going to go into this beautiful gold shade. This shade is called Gold Fortune. And I'm going to take just the tip of this brush. I'm not going to get product all over the brush, but just on that very pointy tip. And I am going to place this right here, right in this little area right here, just to add a little additional color right through there. Taking it all the way down to the inner corner of my eye here. I'm going to take my Sigma E36 brush, and I'm going to go back into this shade right here. This shade is Tranquility. This is the shade that I use as my transition shade, and I'm going to use this to add a little bit more depth into this look. Again, for you guys who have been following me for quite some time, or who have been watching the channel for quite some time, you guys know that this is something that I do. I tried leaving this step out in a look that I did a couple of videos ago, and I just like how it looks once I go back in and add just a little bit more depth into the eye look. But this is optional. You don't have to do this if you don't have a fold on your eyelid or slightly hooded eyes as I do. I'm going to add liner and lashes, and I'll be right back. I've added my liner and my lashes, and I also did some color correcting. I used my staple products for color correcting. Around my mouth, I used my Kevyn Aucoin Sensual Skin Enhancer. It's in the shade SX14. And under my eyes, I used my Tatcha Pearl. That's in the shade Candlelight. And I am going to move on to my complexion. And I am not airbrushing my complexion today, but I've decided that I'm going to still use the same process for applying my concealer and contour as I normally do when I'm using my airbrush, if that makes sense. So when I use my airbrush, I normally put the concealer and my cream contour down first, and then put the foundation over the top, and that normally works pretty well because the airbrush gun is going to apply that foundation in a pixelated type of fashion, so it goes on top of those products really well. But you can use the same technique or the same process when you're using traditional foundation, and that's what we're going to do today. And I think I'm going to go ahead and put this hair back a little bit before we get started. All right, hair is pulled back. I'm using the Pat McGrath Sublime Perfection Concealer. I'm in the shade M20. This is a beautiful concealer. I'm using my Tarte Clay Foundation Stick. It's in the shade Rich Honey. This is a staple cream contour product for me. My cream contour is done, but I've gotten a little bit ahead of myself, so I've already applied my concealer. And like I said, I just finished up applying the contour, but I totally forgot to set my under eyes, and that's something that I normally like to do before I apply my concealer because I don't want my under eyes to start to crease. So I've got to get these eyes set, and I am going to use the Pat McGrath Labs Skin Fetish Sublime Perfection Blurring Under Eye Powder. You guys have heard me talk about this powder before. I really like this powder, and I love the results that this powder gives. I like the fact also that this powder calls out that it is specifically for the under eye area. I like that a lot. So I'm going to use my foam wedge, and I'm going to go ahead and get these under eyes set before we have issues, and we don't have time for that. I'm going to use the Pat McGrath Labs Highlighter Balm Duo, and I am going to use the highlighter end of this product. This is what this looks like. This is a stick highlighter. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to place this just above the area where I have added my contour. So I'm just going to lay that down just like that, right on top of where I have that contour. And then I'm going to take a brush here, and I'm just going to just soften that up just a little bit. And I'm blending up or towards my eyes, not down towards my jawline here. I'm taking this up. So the hope is that this will show through from underneath my foundation. I know that when I'm using liquid highlighters, they work well for this. Very pretty. I'm going to take some of this on my brush here, and I want to put a little bit here on the tip end of my nose. Just a little bit. And we'll take a little bit down the bridge of the nose. Just a little bit. Take a little bit more, put it on the Cupid's bow. And a little bit more. I'm going to put it on my chin. And now it's time for foundation, and I do not have a Pat McGrath foundation yet. But I am desperately trying to use up all the foundations that I currently have in my collection. So I am going to use this Cover FX Natural Finish Oil-Free Foundation. This is in the shade G90. I am almost done with this foundation, so we're going to use this today. I've got about this much of this foundation on my mixing palette, and I'm going to use this Real Techniques foundation brush. And I'm going to spritz this brush using this Power Up Dual Phase Setting Mist. This came in one of my BoxyCharm boxes quite some time ago. So I'm just going to spritz this just a little, just to make those bristles a little bit softer. And I'm going to start applying my foundation. And I'm sticking with my jawline area first. And I'm not necessarily going directly over this bronze area just yet. I'm just going around on some of the other areas of my face first. I actually think applying foundation on top of your concealer and your bronzer, you use a lot less foundation because you've already got some coverage on your face already. So it just doesn't take as much. And it really makes your contour look really soft. It's not a harsh type of contour. So I'm not going to dip back onto my palette here. Whatever I have on my brush is what I'm going to use to just gently blend into that cream contour that I have down already. Just like that. So you can see that the foundation application, really it's done. And I still have this much foundation left on this palette, so I definitely didn't need that much. But again, I think the reason why I don't need as much foundation is because I've already got some coverage and pigmentation already on my face, so it just takes less. I like that during the summer months, and I think I may like that even during the winter months because it just gives a much softer look. So yeah, I really like that. Very pretty. I'm setting my entire face with the Pat McGrath Labs Skin Fetish Sublime Perfection Setting Powder. I'm in the shade Medium 3, just a light set, not too much. Very pretty. And you can still see where I do have some highlighter here. You can see the highlighter that's still here in this area. And for my cream contour, you can still see that there's just enough contour. It's just a perfect amount. It's not overdone. Love this. So this is looking pretty good. I really like how this looks, but I think I want to warm up my face just a little bit more. So I am going to use one of the bronzers that I have in my collection. I haven't used this in quite some time, and that is the Girl on Paris Terracotta Bronzing Powder. This is in the shade number 7. I'm going to use one of my oldie but goodie natural hair brushes from MAC. Remember when MAC had natural hair brushes? So yeah, I'm going to use this brush to apply some of this bronzer onto my face just to warm up this look just a little bit. Add a little bit here in this area as well. I'm not really sure if I'm going to add blush to this or not, but I like using a bronzer as blush. So we'll see. Still got everything shining through. We can still see our highlight here. And we still have some depth here for our contour. I'm now going to smoke out my waterline, and I'm going to use this shade right here, which is Prosperity, and this shade right here, which is Tranquility. Tranquility is the shade I used as my transition shade. Prosperity, this darker shade, is the shade that I'm using here on the outer V of this look. And for my inner corner highlight, I'm going to go back to this shade right here. This shade is called Eternal Opulence. And for my lips, I'm going to use one of my Pat McGrath Labs Mini Matte Trance Lipsticks. I believe this is in Flesh 03. This is what this shade looks like. Very, very pretty. And I'm going to use this with no liner. I'm just going to go in straight away with this lipstick. lipstick is gorgeous. And this look is done. I hope you guys liked this video, and if you did, remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you guys on my next video. Bye-bye.